Hello, my name is Tristan Hall and I am your instructor for Introduction to Public Administration. Today we're going to be talking about our three branches of government and why it's really important to understand our three branches of government to be an effective public administrator. When we think about public administration, there's three things that you need to know before the presentation. The first one is that public administration is different from political science. Political science folks are those who are seeking to run for elected office. So if I was running for president, for governor, for mayor, for ombudsman, for congressman, one of those things, or the people who are really looking to shape policy. Public administration carries out the mission of the three branches of government, and we'll talk more about that. And public administration must be understood and must understand the three branches of government to be effective. Public administration really stems from the United States Constitution and the idea of federalism, which established the three branches of government. The United States Constitution was signed on September the 17th of 1787. It established the United States government and federalism. It established laws and the rights for citizens. Since then, there have been 27 amendments, the first 10 of those known as the Bill of Rights, most commonly the right to free speech, the right to bear arms, those type of things. Three branches of government. This is the meat and potatoes of public administration. What happens is public administrator, so if you are the director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, if you're a policy analyst, if you are the director of community affairs for a local township or city, you have to know what's happening with the three branches of government to effectively do your job. There may be budgets passed that trickle down to you. If you are the state Medicare director, there may be things happening with the three branches of government that trickle down to you that affect how you do your job. If you are the director of immigration control for Homeland Security, you have to know that there's executive orders going out from the White House that are trying to be blocked by different types of judicial systems. So you have to understand how they work together and really how they will affect you doing your job as a public administrator. The legislative branch can declare war, can impeach, most famously President Clinton, who was technically impeached but never actually had to leave office, can write, debate, and pass bills into law. This is probably the most crucial thing for you to understand as a public administrator. Can approve budgets. We just had the Office of Homeland Security almost shut down because a budget could not be approved. They literally had 2 hours left in the process, and they approved an extension. They can also oversee commerce, trade, and business. The executive branch, who is headed by our president, Barack Obama, can make treaties, appoint judges to the Supreme Court, which they have to be confirmed by the Congress. So when we talk about checks and balances, there are some things there. The vice president, Joe Biden, actually serves as the president of the United States Senate, so there's more checks and balances. The president is our commander-in-chief, I should say, sorry about that. So he is the head of all military segments. Suggest budget ideas, suggest because they have to be voted on by Congress, again a check and balance, can veto bills by Congress, and enforces this country's laws. A big thing as well is, they can do executive orders sometimes that override things in Congress. So when the president really wants something done and doesn't feel like dealing with Congress, especially if the president is of one political party and the Congress is a majority of another party, they will do an executive order. Most famous right now in our country is the one dealing with immigration, which again has been caught up in the judicial system. Judicial. So we have a Supreme Court justice who is the head of this. Also, we have associate justices. Again, the president nominates these people and the Congress has to confirm. The beautiful thing about the judicial system is that once you are a justice, you are never taken off of the board until either you die or you resign. There is no term limit, so that's a good thing. So this helps us in being fair because the president will obviously put someone on the Supreme Court who is of their same mindset. But let's say George Bush, who was our previous president, put somebody on. That person could still be on the Supreme Court today, even though there's a new president. So there's all types of party and political influences that can last for decades on the Supreme Court. Checks and balances. As a public administrator, you need to understand how all three of these branches work together and how they balance one another out. The goal of this in the Constitution was that no branch is too strong, yet no branch is too weak. No branch has too much power, because the United States should always remain a democracy. If the president could all of a sudden become a dictator, that's not a democracy. If the judicial system could just pass, or I'm sorry, could interpret any law to any meaning without reprimand, again, that would not be checks and balances. We look at how just some very minor examples of checks and balances, and there are tons of them. Here are some few that I like. The court can declare a law unconstitutional. Well, guess what? Who makes the laws? That would be the legislative branch. And guess who has to pass that law? That would be the executive branch. So they all work together. The president then has to nominate judges for the judicial branch, but the Congress has to confirm them. So before they can get here, they have to go to these two here. The Senate confirms the president's nominations. We said that there. Congress approves presidential nominations and controls the budget. So just all types of things of how they have to work together. Now, oftentimes in our media, we'll hear about how they do not work together, but there are some times of successful collaboration across the aisle, and I want to make sure you know that. But you have to understand, I should say, what happens when they do not work together and how that affects you as a public administrator, and what happens when there's a video on YouTube called Branches of Government that I won't show here today because technology won't allow you to show video in video. But if you get a chance, go to YouTube, type in 3 branches of government, and it really breaks down for students in a great way with lyrics they can remember what it takes to be a member of the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch, and how they must all work together. Great video, great learning tool for youth, but I think it's effective for adults as well. We talk about how does this apply to public administration, thinking about these 3 branches of government. Give you some examples. Let's say you are the budget director for Governor John Kasich in Ohio. You have to know what's happening at the national level, what's happening on the federal level with the budgets, what's going to be passed down to us. How's Congress seeing this? How is the executive branch seeing this? If I'm representing a Republican governor, what does this mean to me? If I was a Democratic budget director, what does this mean to me? What are my state's strategic priorities? What is my governor going to do? How do I, as a public administrator who's not an elected official, how do I make the best decisions for this administration that I'm working on? You have to understand, let's say you're the director of healthcare systems for a hospital. Even though you're not technically working in government, you have to understand what's happening at the federal level with the Affordable Care Act. You have to know what's happening on the state level with Medicare dollars, which is impacted from the federal level. So there are tons of ways that the 3 branches of government affect public administration. Let's say you work in law enforcement and you have just been tasked with the job of, doing some type of community outreach for the police, or you're working on racial tensions, or addressing current issues in our country. You have to look at the judicial branch and say, what's going on? How are they interpreting these laws? So these things can apply to every single day. I will end this now due to constraint, but if you do have any questions about public administration, please let me know.